Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 148. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community. Chris, do you want to explain who Ellie is?
Yeah, if you're wondering, that's great. We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie.
Yes, we do. You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're there. That way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new with us.
Today we're talking with Amy Wilson. She's an amazing source of information about health, nutrition, and fitness. Let's go to the podcast.
Amy Wilson is a board-certified geriatric pharmacist, a certified fitness professional, and a certified nutrition coach. She helps people prevent and reverse diseases with nutrition and fitness.
Amy believes diet and exercise can change a person's life and how the right nutritional program can be the key to improving health and fitness. She has seen her clients reverse their pre-diabetes, diabetes, high cholesterol, and more.
Amy uses a holistic approach to health, which helps her clients feel in control of their bodies and minds while no longer feeling enslaved by their scale.
Wow. Thank you, Amy, for being here. We're looking forward to talking with you. I'm still thinking about that, being enslaved to my scale.
I'm really excited to be with both you, Jill and Chris. This is probably it is my favorite topic to discuss. So this is going to be a good conversation.
That's great. Let's start with, what is a board-certified geriatric pharmacist? You know, the word geriatric seems very old to me and not a word that I would necessarily use to describe my age.
I know. I mean, when we think geriatric, we think, I hate to say old because I hate using that word anyway, but I would say older adults is what it is. But really geriatric is 55, 60, 65. That's the classification of a geriatric physician, pharmacist, geriatric. And board certified, there are, I think, about 9 different certifications that a pharmacist can get after graduating from pharmacy school and taking all the lovely exams. And one is geriatric. There's also pediatrics and oncology. I chose geriatrics because that's the field that I work in. I'm a long-term care consultant. I work in nursing homes, and a good majority of my population, I would say, is older adults. Fortunately, I'm seeing younger and younger adults come in, but as we age, medications work differently. It just happens. And we don't think about that. We're like, oh, well, it should be the same thing across the board. Well, it's not. And some things happen differently to our metabolism. What we do, the amount of water that's in our system, the amount of muscle that's in our system. And then there's also changes. Well, there's always changes, but there's also differences between male and female. And so what I do as a geriatric pharmacist, I'm looking for what's called polypharmacy, being on too many medications. It's also how medications might not be the optimal dose. It might be too high for someone who's older. So we're looking at all that kind of thing in a population of somebody who is, I would say, older.
Okay. Wow. So I guess geriatric and, just 55, 60 is, well, when you say pediatric, that makes me feel a little better. It's just kind of a category.
Chris, think about this.
Yes, it's a category, yes.
If you're a 35 and older and you're pregnant, it's called a geriatric pregnancy.
Oh, it does. Oh, I didn't know that.
So I think geriatric just means older than the average bear.
Okay. I like that.
So at any rate.
It's like really yogi, I guess.
Yeah. So you're also, besides being a geriatric pharmacist, you're also a fitness professional and a nutrition coach. Is that correct?
Yeah. I do both of those. I started teaching when I was 17, so I'm going to age myself. It was the time of high-low aerobics where we had the big hair and the leotards, leg warmers. That's when I started. And been doing that. I went through school, University of Toledo. That's how I went through pharmacy school. That was my job. And I kept doing it after pharmacy school and have kept all these years. I still teach. And then I also started diving into more of the nutrition aspect too, because let's be honest, my nutrition wasn't that great. I tried to work out a bad diet. So much so when I was 29, I blew my back out and had to have back surgery because I was a diagnosed exercise addict. And yeah, it was one of those things that we didn't know much about nutrition back in the 80s. It was all low fat. It was SnackWells. It was, let's see what we have to take the fat out of everything. And because that was what was causing all the heart disease. That was the issues. Well, hindsight 2020, guess where our diabetes epidemic started? It was during the low fat first.
The sugar from all the
eating the box of SnackWells because they were low fat. We could eat the whole box.
I thought, you didn't think anything about it. And now you look back going, oh my gosh, but we had this huge disconnect with food and then what it does to our body. And we kind of have that disconnect. So as I'm being a fitness professional and a pharmacist, one of the things that people always ask you when you're teaching, or at that time I was in retail, how can I lose weight? Can I take this supplement? Can I take this and it will help me drop 10 pounds because I saw it on Dr. Oz or this, at that time we didn't call them influencers, but this celebrity, said that they took this pill and all of a sudden they were in this movie and, we know how that goes. And I started diving into the nutrition aspect and getting different nutrition certifications and started coaching people. But still there was that disconnect. We still looked at calories in versus calories out. We didn't really look at the nutrition aspect of things. We kept seeing things as energy, but not as nutrition. Fast forward in my 40s, perimenopause hits and I'm working out like crazy. I am not immune to what everybody who's listening in on this podcast wants, to be a smaller size, to do it quickly and to have to not think about it. And really kind of like, you just hope and wish that this, whatever you try is going to work and is going to stick. But you can't starve yourself for 10 days and expect to keep doing that. It just doesn't work. And I was working out all the time. I tried every single fad diet that was out there, even though I knew better, because we still wanted that. We still want it. And we tried to convince ourselves that, oh, well, maybe this time or this promise will deliver. Kept gaining inches. I would like to say I felt like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Boy man from Ghostbusters. You look at me, and what it was inflammation. It was lots of inflammation. And then the hot flashes and not being able to sleep and joint pain and headaches. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this just must be menopause. This must be my second chapter and I'm just going to have to deal with it. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to deal with it. I got to figure what's going on. I'm not willing to settle.
Well, that leads right into my next question. As we age, many of us have experienced midlife weight gain. And while sometimes it seems like it's caused by menopause, is it really inevitable? And is there a way to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say. We have set ourselves up. We have really done a number on ourselves. We have set ourselves up to get to this point. And how we did that was all the yo-yo dieting throughout the years. Every time that we went on a crash diet, every time we did a fad diet, every time we did a shake thing and got ready for prom, got ready for a wedding, the holiday, bikini season, and we lost weight quickly, we weren't losing body fat. What we were losing was muscle. And every time we lost muscle, we slowed our metabolism down even more. So when we get at the perimenopause, and perimenopause starts somewhere after 35, menopause, is the 1 year after of having no period. That's when menopause actually hits. So during this time, estrogen goes lower, testosterone goes lower. but we already have slowed our metabolism down with all the dieting that we have done. And we've pretty much have decreased the amount of muscle that we have in our system. We've kept the body fat. So now estrogen goes lower, and then we start getting this belly because estrogen goes into the fat cells. That all kind of accumulates into this little muffin top. I called it Buddha, is what I called mine. And we're like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? And we have the knee-jerk reaction that, oh my gosh, I got to go do more cardio. I have to stop eating carbs. I need to stop eating, period, because obviously that's what's doing everything. And it's not necessarily the hormones. It's what I'm doing with my body. That's not the case. Yes, the hormones come into play. The hormones decreasing doesn't help. It's the fact that we've lost so much muscle. It's the fact that we do not feed our body what it needs. Our body's one humongo chemical reaction. We can give it the best fuel possible, or we can give it the worst fuel possible. And the problem is we don't realize a lot of times that we're giving it the worst fuel possible because healthy choice, lean cuisine. This is healthy. This protein bar will help you. And they are healthy foods, healthy, quote unquote, that are really ultra processed foods that have caused us to increase our inflammation, that have caused us to increase our fluffiness, that are not helping us with our gut microbiome. It's not helping us keeping our muscle. It's not helping us build muscle. And so is it inevitable? No. Can we reverse? Yes. Will we still be our 16-year-old body? No. And that's okay. And I think that's what we have to realize too, is that it's okay that we are not our younger selves, that we can be our best midlife selves. And everybody's different. Everybody has a different body shape, and that should be celebrated. And skinny does not equal healthy. And we have to get that through our heads, especially now with a lot of things going on in social media and in the diet industry, is that we still think that skinny equals healthy, and it does not. What equals health is having muscle. What equals health is being strong. That's longevity. And we need to start thinking about longevity instead of being skinny.
That's well said.
Very well said.
Can we go back to the scale, being enslaved by our scale?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? And can you just talk about that for a minute?
Well, let me ask you, do you have a number in your head that you think is where you should be?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have that number when we were in our teens that we thought that, every magazine, every model was 110.
Well, part of it, I think, is that BMI number too. Like when you plug things in, there's a number that comes up for your height.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
I've sort of gotten over being 20 years old and being the weight I was when I was 20. But when that BMI number pops up, you expect to be a certain level on the scale too.
And that BMI number is going away too, thank God. Because that BMI number, once again, does not take in consideration of muscle mass. So that number on the scale does not tell your self-worth. That number on the scale, when you lose weight and you lose weight quickly, it's not the amount of fat you lost. And that's what we have to realize, is that that's what we think. Oh, lose 10 pounds. Well, what was that 10 pounds? Was that 10 pounds fat, or was that 10 pounds muscle? More than likely, 90% of it was muscle. It wasn't fat. That's what we really want to lose. We want to lose the fat. We don't want to lose the muscle. And when we keep thinking that scale is going to tell us the truth, when we think that scale, we put so much weight in that number on the scale. We really do. We think that scale is going to tell us to be happy. That scale is going to tell us what's going on. But really, I mean, honestly, if you could weigh the same right now and drop 2 sizes, would you go for the number on the scale, or would you go for those 2 sizes?
Well, I think the clothes. I'd go for those 2 sizes, I guess.
You would be surprised. I will have clients who drop 2 or 3 sizes, like, but the scale didn't go down. The scale didn't go down. And I'm like, you have to get out of that number being what's so important, because They don't understand that you're losing chronic inflammation. You're losing body fat and keeping your muscle mass, which is huge. And you are losing dress sizes. Who cares what the number on the scale is doing?
So it's not really about losing weight. And, I keep hearing people say things about, eat less, move more. And that doesn't necessarily work either.
It doesn't work because when you think about eat less, what's the quality of your food? Are you, we all grew up with Slim Fast. Are you just downing Slim Fast shakes, which is ultra processed diet food? Or are you eating less and it's okay, I'll have half a McDonald's this time. I'll have half a brownie this time. Or is it eat less and all I'm eating is lettuce and really depriving myself and not getting any other nutrition? And when we do that, once again, our body needs a certain amount of fuel. It needs it. If you don't give it, it's going to get it from somewhere. And unfortunately, it's going to take it from muscle because that's where the amino acids are. And as women, we should be scared to death of this one. We need vitamins and minerals. It's going to take it from our bones.
Yeah.
Osteoporosis, osteopenia. And then if it's taken from our muscles, then we have what's called sarcopenia. That's muscle wasting. 3 things that increase frailty as we get older that we do not want. I think most of us want to be thriving. Most of us want to feel in our 20s, have the wisdom of our 50s, but still feel like we're in our 20s. It's understanding that we have to focus on health. We have to focus on strength and also, once again, focus on that longevity instead of being so concerned about being ultra skinny.
So how do we lose the fat and keep the muscle?
Perfect question. Because that is always the secret sauce, right? We want to get rid of the body fat, increase the muscle, change our body shape. It all comes down to getting rid of ultra processed foods. And what ultra processed foods is the foods that have chemicals, added sugar, additives, colors, chemicals. It's not the good stuff. We need real food, fruits. Yeah. Bananas, people, rice, people, potatoes, those things that say people like, oh, no, that's causing me to gain weight. That is not causing you to gain weight. Having fish, meat, having your grains, your fruits, your vegetables, and having enough of it because your body needs a certain amount of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Still have to do cardiovascular exercise, not, I always say balls to the wall, cray. The going for hours or thinking that you have to just leave it on the floor and be drenched every single day, that actually doesn't serve us. And when we undereat and we do that, we're actually burning more muscle. It's not what we want. So if we fuel our body with the right amount of nutrition, we add the cardiovascular in so that we keep everything healthy cardiovascular wise and movement, because movement, I think that was one of your words this year was movement.
Oh, yeah.
Was a great word. That was a great word. And now we start building muscle to maintain and build. You will lose body fat and increase muscle. Now, here's the caveat. It's slow. It's painfully slow. And understanding that when you start, that your journey started today when you start, and it never ends. It's not a 6-week, 10-day, 21-day challenge. It is something that you're going to do for now and the rest of your life so that you can thrive, so you can have energy, so that you can live with purpose and do all the things that you want to do way into 90s. And, maybe we'll be one of those blue zone people and be an octogenarian.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah.
It's not the easy, I would say it's not the easy button. It's not like, oh, well, can I just take a supplement or can I just drink this shake every day? It was one of those interesting things. I was watching the Blue Zone documentary and they're like, oh, well, this Blue Zone, they eat a lot of purple potatoes. So that must be the key. It must be the purple potatoes. And, everybody wants that one thing. And they're like, no, it's not only this, but it's the seaweed that they eat and the fruits and vegetables and that keeping their movement going. And it's like the whole kit and caboodle. It's not just this one thing. And we always want to pare it down to just one thing, because sometimes that just seems, I think it's easier to grasp if it's just one thing, but it's kind of like this whole entire picture. It's health, it's mental well-being, it's fueling your body right so that you have that health and mental well-being. And then it's also building muscle so that you can continue to get better.
So you build the muscle, but, well, first of all, you do the cardio exercise of some sort to keep your cardiovascular system good.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did you say we do to build the muscle? Or
building
strength?
muscle is strength. So you can, and everybody's like, oh, but I have to go to the gym. No, you can do this at home. I have to buy a bunch of weights. No, you don't. You can start with resistance bands. You can start with your dog. I have a 20-pound dog. Lifting that helps. You can get some dumbbells
up over your head,
right? You know, and honestly, think about it. You're going on vacation. What do you want to do? You want to take your luggage and be able to put it in the overhead bin. I mean, that's something you want, right? You want to be able to do. So think about all the things that you do at home. Do you go to Costco or BJ's or Sam's? Do you buy those big things of detergent?
Water.
Water. You can use all of those things if you don't want to go out and buy weights right now, and use those to learn how to do bicep curls, squats, all these things that we can work our big muscles. You can also use body weight so that we can use the muscles. I mean, use it or lose it is a very good term. You either use it or you lose it. And so if we can use those muscles, start building those muscles, and yeah, sometimes it does take someone to help you. I do virtual training. That's one of the reasons why it's virtual, because I can get anybody. But there's so many resources out there to teach you how to lift and how to lift properly, because that's another thing. Don't just go and say, oh, I'm just going to do a bunch of bicep curls, or I'm just going to do a bunch of squats, and then injure yourself, because good form always means great results and bad form means injury. And the last thing that we want is to be injured.
Well, that's true. Because once you're injured, you have to stop doing a lot of things.
Yeah. And then it takes a while to get back into the groove.
It does.
So
it does.
If you can keep that groove going without getting injured, that's definitely what you want.
Definitely. We hear a lot about pre-diabetes, diabetes, blood sugar. I know people measuring the A1C is one way. We look at some of that on how our body's handling things. But can you talk a bit about that, and glucose and insulin spikes? Can you just give us a crash course on that?
Oh, sure. So we hear a lot, we're hearing a lot about, because of the GLP-1s, semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, which are originally for diabetes. So what is diabetes or pre-diabetes? It is where your body no longer responds to insulin, where it no longer takes your blood sugar down to normal levels. That's what pre-diabetes and diabetes is. Pre-diabetes, I always say, is your warning sign, wake up call. A1C is a snapshot of the previous 90 days of what your blood sugar was doing. If you think about someone who takes a blood sample or pricks their finger and takes their blood sugar at that time, that is at that moment, at that time, what your blood sugar is doing now. And A1C is going to look back 90 days. If you are in the 5 range, that's normal. If you start going up to 5.7, 5.8, 5.96, you are now what's considered pre-diabetes. Been there, done that. My dad had diabetes. When I started getting into menopause and perimenopause, my A1C went up. When you go higher than that is diabetes. And the one thing I want everybody to know is that if you get that pre-diabetes diagnosis, 1, it does not mean that you're going to be diabetic. And 2, that's your wake-up call to start taking care of yourself now. The one thing I absolutely hate is I get somebody and says, oh, my doctor just wants to watch it right now. Okay? No. And the reason I say no is that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're well on your way to that path. There's no watching. It's just going to watch to see how it increases. And that's going to be diabetes. That's not what you want. At least I don't think that's what you want. So what diabetes is the increase of blood sugar. What that does, and when your blood sugar spikes, and I'm not talking about little waves. What you want is these little kind of like ocean waves. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. What you don't want is these big mountaintops where it just goes way, way up and then down, way, way up and then down. Because what that does is that increases your chance of stroke, heart disease, also diabetes, and chronic inflammation. And we know that chronic inflammation is what causes a lot of our preventable diseases. And I'll get all the time, well, I can't eat a banana. Well, yeah, you can eat a banana because yes, you might get some spike, but I would also pair that with some protein and fat, and that's going to help. What's really causing a lot of those spikes is the ultra processed foods, is candy bars, is simple carbohydrates. And the best way to say what is a simple carbohydrate is that if you take some water and you splash it on there, or you just pour a little water and it just dissolves, that's a simple carbohydrate. It just goes away.
Like on a muffin or a cookie.
On a muffin, cookie, yeah.
Piece of cake. You put water on it, it dissolves. You know that's simple.
Simple, yeah.
Okay.
You put water on broccoli, it doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't.
Most kids like, but anything else, if it just dissolves, that means it's going to go right into your system that quickly because there's no fiber. And fiber slows the absorption of of sugar into your bloodstream. So you always want to pair what you're having with some fiber because that's going to slow everything down. With those spikes, those blood sugar spikes, it also increases aging. We have things on our DNA. If you think about your shoestring, you have these little things on the back end of your shoestrings that are kind of like plasticky. Think of that as your DNA. We call them telomeres. As we're young, those endings are really long. Great. But as we age, those endings get shorter and shorter and shorter. And the more sugar spikes that you have, it shortens those telomeres even more. But here's the cool thing. If you start eating healthy foods, start balancing your blood sugar, those telomeres actually can start lengthening. So we can reverse aging and we can reverse chronic inflammation. And when you reverse chronic inflammation, these are the other things that happen. Joint pain goes away. You don't have headaches. Your brain fog goes away. When you start balancing your blood sugar, you don't have those 2:00 in the afternoon slumps. You're not hungry all the time. You sleep better. So there's this whole cascade effect with nutrition. And it really does come down to balancing your blood sugar. That's going to help prevent not only diabetes, but other diseases too.
It's really popular right now, even for people who are not pre-diabetic or who don't have diabetes, to wear a continuous glucose monitor, a CGM.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that of a person who doesn't have significant, I don't know, like, so I see people who like, I ate a bowl of oatmeal and now my blood sugar is 150 and, I'm doomed. But so just, I guess I'm telling you what my opinion is by that question, but could you just can you talk about that?
Oh, I love CGMs, but you have to understand the information because I wore CGM for a while to get my A1C and everything else under control. And I was in a group and I know exactly what you're talking about. I ate a banana and it went to 140. We have to understand that we are told that 80 to 120 is the sweet spot. But everybody's a little bit different, right? Everybody's a little bit different in our genetics and whether you're a female, you're male, your makeup, it's all that kind of thing. What we're looking at for a spike is OMG spike. What we're looking at is 200. Are you going up to 170s, 180s, 190s? And then what we're also looking is how quickly do you recover? So are you staying in that zone that your body is like going, oh, wait, we're high. I need to get back down. Or are you staying in these spikes and staying way up? CGMs are great, but it's kind of like when you're looking for a nutrition program or a fitness program and you go Google and then it's like analysis paralysis. Now you got all this information, but you just don't know what to do with it. And the other thing that people don't understand about CGMs are there is a lag effect with CGMs. When you prick your blood finger, I told you that's what your blood sugar is at the time. If you think about a CGM, the CGM is the caboose on a train. So if I prick my my finger and I get my blood sugar, that's the engine. So you get it at that time. Now we have about a 10 to 15 minute lag time until we get to the caboose, because the CGM is in the interstitial fluid. It's not in the blood. And so it's not really getting you at that time. It gives you good information, but I'm always leery of people who need to really tightly control their blood sugar because of the fact that you're like, oh, I'm not feeling good. But my CGM says I'm fine. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, okay, we're crashing or we're going too high. When you're using it, use it as a tool, because what happens is that most people are like, oh, well, if I say keto and I only eat fat and protein, then I can keep my blood sugar at 80. Okay. All right. I give you that. You're not spiking your blood sugar, but I'm not getting results. I don't understand what's going on, because once again, you need vitamins and minerals. As females, our thyroids need carbs. We do. We need carbs. So when you use that CGM just to keep your blood sugar low, and you're like, but if I eat cheese and if I eat just bacon and I just eat this kind of food, my blood sugar doesn't spike, then you're not getting the right information. So I always say, use the tools, use the knowledge. It's great, but also be smart about it and have someone who is knowledgeable to help you kind of guide you so that you are getting the nutrition too.
Okay, that makes sense. I've been a little leery about just slapping this thing on me and then having to sort of figure it out yourself. It's like going and getting blood work done and then trying to
figure out what
analyze
it
it yourself. Well, I didn't go to medical school, Yeah. Like, well, there are things that you would assume people know that I don't know.
They're not cheap, and it takes about 24 hours for it to calibrate. So most of them are only good for 14 days. So you're already there. Now you're on the 13-day mark, and it's one of those things. It's a great tool to use, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. I guess that's what I'm saying. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So if we weren't going to use a CGM and we wanted to sort of but manage these spikes, are there different ways that we should be eating? I mean, you mentioned fiber that makes a difference, but are there other things that people can do to lower the spikes?
Oh, absolutely. So what I always tell people is to think about protein, fats, and carbohydrates. The carbohydrates that are going to have the most blood sugar impact, high glycemic. So if you ever see a glycemic index, the higher the glycemic index, the more it can impact your blood sugar. So a good example is a banana. If you have a greener banana, it has more what's called resistant starch. It's not going to impact your blood sugar as something that is a browner banana that has turned a lot into the sugar. So that's going to actually increase your blood sugar a little bit more. But say all you have is a brown banana and you're trying to figure out, I want a banana. What am I going to do so I don't have this blood sugar impact so much? Don't eat the banana first. When you have a simple carbohydrate that's going to affect your blood sugar that doesn't have as much fiber, carbohydrates start digestion process first thing in the mouth. It's with an enzyme called amylase. If you take a saltine cracker, put it in your mouth and just let it dissolve. Remember I said water just lets things dissolve. Same thing with saltine cracker, right? Just let dissolve. You'll notice that it has a sweet taste at the end. And that is the amylase, which is an enzyme breaking down the carbohydrate into the simplest form of sugars. If you have protein and like a protein and a fat, so let's say, okay, I want a banana. What else could I have? Well, maybe I have some chicken slices, or maybe I have some turkey or some kind of protein. I have a protein and I also have some fat. Well, maybe I have some peanut butter with the banana. And eat some chicken first, maybe a little bit of protein, a little bit of the peanut butter, then have the banana. You're not going to get the spike as much. Now, if you just do the banana, or my favorite was when I was going through all of this, I was like, man, French fries, crap. It's like, I went to over 200 with French fries. I was like, this is just not fair. But it's the same thing. You think about a French fry is a processed food. It also has It also has grease. So not that kind of fat. We want olive oil, good fats. We didn't have the carbohydrate and the fat with the French fry. That is a processed food that will cause a blood sugar increase. Now, if I have a baked potato in its form or a sweet potato, it will not impact as much because once again, we have fiber. So if you can think about having a protein, fat, and carbohydrate each meal, the more fiber, the better. And if you're going to have simple, have it at the end to where it's going to lessen the impact and slow down the impact of the blood sugar raise. Because what we want is maybe like a little bit of a steady climb and not go straight up.
So there's actually some logic to having your dessert after your...
There is logic to having dessert afterward and not having it first.
Makes a lot of sense when you put it that way, right?
Are these symptoms the same as metabolic syndrome? Are we talking about the same thing?
Pretty much. Metabolic syndrome or syndrome X. It has two different things. It's actually having three of the five kind of classifications. One is a certain waist circumference. So if you think apple shaped, that's usually one. Your triglycerides are higher. LDL is higher. Resting blood pressure is higher. And then also fasting glucose or fasting blood sugar is higher. So having one of those three is what's considered metabolic syndrome. It's also chronic inflammation. Metabolic syndrome equals chronic inflammation. So the same thing that we're all talking about, it all comes down almost into the same bucket.
So that was the waist size, triglycerides, your LDL,
your blood pressure being elevated, and then also your blood glucose being elevated.
Okay. And three of those?
Three of those, yeah.
If you have those are all pretty easy to check, except maybe the glucose.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those things that's also very easy to reverse. So I always say our bodies give us so many clues on what's going on. We just don't pay attention. We kind of rationalize. Oh, it's cold outside, so I'm tired, or it's daylight savings time, or I'm busy at work, or the kids, or I'm burning the candle at both ends, having issues at home. We always come up with things that rationalize reason why we don't feel good, instead of thinking that, well, maybe it's our body saying, hey, come on, let me knock. Something's going on. Let's figure this out. You don't go to the doctor and just get a diagnosis of high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol. You don't. It's been coming for a long time. You might have just got the diagnosis, but that disease state has been happening for quite a while.
So you've told us that you've seen how diet and exercise can change a person's life. How do you recommend that we eat?
We should be eating real food.
Real food. In a word, that's the way, right?
It is.
I mean, that helps with the effects of aging.
Yeah. I mean, what everybody always said was, we got this part back right in the day. It was like, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. We got that part right. It's like your fruits, your vegetables. It's going back to the basics is what it is.
Have you noticed they've started to move processed foods into the perimeter so that now when you go through the produce, there's things made for you. And when you go through meat, they put the mac and cheese right next to the.
Yeah. It's, you were, well, it's funny because we were shopping and I used to love them back in the day, the cheese and peanut butter crackers. I mean,
oh yeah,
love those, right? And, now I'm like, oh, it's probably not a real orange color on those crackers. It's probably not real. But it said on the sign, it said good source of protein.
It did?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
in those crackers,
right? It's of course, they're thinking the peanut butter. And I looked at my husband. I'm like, this is why people need me. This is why, because we are inundated with, I won't say false advertising. Someone will pick that up going, oh, my doctor said I need to get more protein. Or I heard Amy on a podcast and she said midlife women need more protein. And okay, so I like cheese and crackers. This is perfect.
Yeah, definitely misleading, isn't it?
Very misleading. Very misleading. It drives me nuts. But I mean, that's what food companies do. They take what's in the now and what's the trend, and they're going to package it. Back in the day, our snack wells, low fat.
Now now the grocery store has keto bread.
Yes.
Which has to be very processed, whatever it is.
Yeah. So they have all this stuff to make it whatever diet is, because a diet is a $3 billion industry. Everybody wants a little piece of that pie, and they will switch. Oh, you shouldn't have that much Coca-Cola. You shouldn't have that much Mountain Dew. What do we have? Minis. So they figure out what to do in order to sell you the product.
Yep, they do.
And what about exercise? How does the exercise feed into all of this?
Well, I love, like I said, I think somebody said yoga and somebody said movement for your yearly words. And both of those are amazing, because one thing is called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that is a mouthful for just move. Clean, walk, go get the mail, park at the last parking spot. Don't always park up front. All those kind of things of just movement. So our bodies crave movement. We are meant to keep moving. We're not meant to retire and sit on the front porch in a rocker. We're meant to keep going. So for cardiovascular wise, a couple times a week, 30 minutes, whether it's walking, jogging, maybe a HIIT class, whatever you want to do to get that heart rate up. Weightlifting, 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And then I always say something like active recovery. As much as back in the day, it pains me to say I thought yoga was a freaking waste of time. I now know, older self, that yoga is amazing. Stretching is amazing. All those things that I should have done in my 20s that I thought was, it's just, I'm not sweating. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, listen, it's our bodies need it. Our bodies need to stretch. Our bodies need that movement. And it also needs gentle movement, because that was where I blew my back out, was being an exercise addict and thinking I had to work out hours and hours and hours and not get results. That's not the case. You don't have to do that. In fact, you're actually hurting your body. So active recovery gives your body a time to rebuild, regenerate, and recover. So underrated, just as much as sleep is. We think that we have to go, 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 go. And as females, we think we have to go, 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 go. And sometimes we just need to go back and just go, it's okay just to take an easy walk. It's okay just to take a nice stretch yoga class. Don't worry about, I'm not burning that many calories. My watch tells me I'm not burning anything. It's okay. Your body is doing all the things it needs to do.
Thank you. Yes.
You've sort of mentioned this, and we've heard a lot about Ozempic for weight loss. What is that? How does it work? What are your thoughts on using it? Should we take Ozempic for weight loss?
So I'm going to say, I always preface this by saying I'm a pharmacist who prefers that you're not on medication, because I think there's purpose for medication. I think medication has an amazing purpose for what it does. A lot of times medication is a treatment and not a cure. And that's something that we have to realize. And we also have to realize that all medications and supplements, because I'm going to put natural things in there too, have side effects. Just because you don't think it's going to happen to you does not mean it may not happen to you. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro is what's called a GLP-1. It's a glucagon-like peptide 1. And this is a groundbreaking discovery. It really is. It is a hormone that's found in the stomach. And they realize that, hey, this hormone has a lot to do with how we feel full. It has a lot to do with how insulin is released. And it was a breakthrough for diabetes. Side effect of this medication is that it causes weight loss. And it makes you feel full all the time, that you're not hungry. Okay, wait a minute, put pause on that, because what's going to happen is everybody's going to be like, yes, I finally have something that I'm not going to be hungry all the time. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, if you're hungry all the time, you're probably not eating, and you're not eating the right foods, because we think we want that. We think we want that not feeling hungry all the time. I'll tell you, I had the stomach virus over the weekend and was nausea all the time. That was the worst thing ever. That's what Ozempic does. And Mounjaro, it makes you feel nauseous. It stops you. Yeah, right? It's not a good feeling. And it slows down digestion. In some people, it slows digestion down so much it causes something called gastroparesis, which is the total shutdown of your GI tract. The problem of that is that it's not reversible.
Oh, what?
Oh my.
Yeah, right? So now you're looking at a disease state that is not reversible, that you're going to be living with for the rest of your life. I have a couple of friends who have the autoimmune version of gastroparesis, and some diabetics will get gastroparesis also. It is not pretty. It's not pretty at all. It's debilitating. It's all you think about, and it actually will make you gain weight and inflammation and everything else because you're not able to get rid of stuff. My other problem with Ozempic is that because it does slow down gastromotility, one of the ways that we get, or three of the ways that we get rid of toxins in our body is that we sweat it out, we pee it out, or we poop it out. We know that we have an increase in colon cancer, and a lot of that has to do with ultra-processed foods. But if we keep toxins in our body, what are we going to see on down the line? Are we going to see an increased colon cancer rate? And then the other thing is that you're not eating because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not hungry anymore. This is amazing. And I'm not eating and now I'm losing weight. But hey, hold on a minute. We're not losing body fat. We're losing muscle. So you hear about Ozempic face, Ozempic butt. Well, it's not the fat that they're losing in their face and their butt. It's the muscle that they're losing, the muscle tone. So where do you think your body is going to get the nutrition it needs to keep going? You need amino acids. It's going to get it from muscle. It needs vitamins and minerals. It's going to get it from bones. And what I'm really worried about, not only for us over 50, 55, 60, is that we're increasing our risk of frailty. And frailty is, if you think about seeing someone who can't walk, they're hunched over, they just look weak and frail, we're increasing that. But what I'm really afraid of is also in the younger, the 35s and 40s, we're going to get something I kind of saying is old lady disease. You're going to start seeing people with hip fractures and femur fractures and anything else, and probably osteoporosis, because we're going to be increasing osteopenia, osteoporosis, and sarcopenia. We're going to start seeing the hunched over shoulders in much younger women than we should. All because of we're not giving our body nutrition because we're chasing that skinny instead of chasing longevity and health.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in right there.
And, I get where people want to be on it because believe me, I was like, remember I said, I was, let me have the flashy stuff. I understand. So if someone's like, but I'm on this, or if you feel you need to be on it, you also need to be making sure that you are getting the nutrition, that you are keeping your muscle and you're building your muscle. And I do have several clients who came to me starting on this and want to make sure that they're doing it the right way. The other thing too is that if you don't keep that muscle and once you go off the medication, it causes rapid weight gain. And that's scary. And a lot of people will actually get psychologically addicted to it because think about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I lost 30 pounds. Oh, yay. I don't want to be on this medication anymore. But I know if I go off this medication, it's going to all come back and then I won't be happy or I won't be able to get my jeans or people will think I'm a failure. And now you have this psychological addiction that you have to be on this medication because you're so afraid of what's going to happen afterwards.
So going off it actually cause rapid weight gain or is it?
It can. Yeah, it can.
So it's not just that you weren't eating and now you're hungry.
It's that too. It does, because once you don't have that, you're not nauseous anymore. Now you're actually hungry and you have that mechanism again. You start eating. Well, guess what? You lost your muscle. Your metabolism went down. And the other thing that we know is it does something called leptin resistance. And that biofeedback marker gets kind of all discombobulated. And when you're on Ozempic, it helps, but then you didn't do it naturally. You did it with a chemical and now leptin's all dysregulated again, and it will cause you to increase what you're eating very quickly.
Wow.
You can actually work on GLP-1 naturally by eating real food and making sure that you have protein at each meal, and that will stimulate your own GLP-1.
Eating protein at every meal
will help your own GLP-1.
Wow.
And tell us again, GLP-1.
Glucagon-like peptide. That's what helps keep you full. That's what helps keep you.
So that's what makes you feel full. That's why they say if you eat protein, you get that whole satiety thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
I hate to even ask this next question. So is there any medication that you recommend for weight loss?
Not necessarily.
I mean, how about supplements or anything?
Yeah, not really. Okay. So there's supplements I do recommend, not necessarily for weight loss. They're things that can help you get better. So a good probiotic, because we know that having a good gut microbiome helps mental health. It helps decrease your cholesterol. It helps with inflammation. It helps with digestion. So having a fabulous probiotic out there, and there are lots of bad ones out there. And I hate to say it, is that, it really does need to be refrigerated. It needs to be live, and it doesn't need to have 30 different bacteria in there, because when you have 30 different bacteria, they're all fighting for the same space. There's going to be some that are not going to make it. So if you want live bacteria, just be careful what you're taking. I also do like omega-3s. One of them I take is actually, it's kind of like a vegan one. It's made out of algae. And the reason I like the vegan one is because, man, what do we do to our fish population? I mean, we really have been mean to our fish population. It's, it's
getting
horrible.
decimated.
Yeah, it's horrible. So, and also I don't like fish burps. So having an omega-3 it's made out of algae is amazing. And most people will find that they will feel better, that their sense of well-being is better. And vitamin D is the other one that I think is great. And what I always say for vitamin D is make sure that that's one of the labs that you get every year is a vitamin D level to see where you are, because some people absorb vitamin D very well and don't need much supplementation. Some people are like me who don't absorb it, don't transport it, and I have to take vitamin D on a daily basis. And a great test is just your blood test, and you can get that done yearly at your yearly checkup. Pill wise to lose weight, no, there really isn't anything that's going to be like, oh, if you want to regulate your blood sugar, but make sure that you're working with somebody, there's something called berberine, and it helps with, it's kind of like a metformin that helps with insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance. And that's a good one. But once again, also making sure that you're not just getting whatever and talking to somebody to make sure that you're at the optimal. Because in America, we're very good at 1's great, 20 must be better. And understanding that you don't need a lot for things to do well.
Is there any supplements that you recommend for keeping muscle while losing fat?
Creatine.
Tell me about creatine.
I honestly think every female should take creatine every day.
Really?
It's a powder, and you're not going to bulk up. You may notice just a little bit of bloating, but it goes away. That's the big thing. Everybody's like, but I'm going to bloat, I'm going to gain weight. You will notice a little bit, because what creatine does is allows fluid to go into the muscle. We have creatine. We get creatine from our diet. Usually we just can't get enough. And as females, as we age, we need to keep our muscle. The other thing that we're seeing is a possibility of decrease in Alzheimer's with creatine.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I like creatine monohydrate. It's 5 grams a day. It's mixes. You don't taste it. I put it in my water every day. I highly recommend before you have your coffee in the morning to have water, because that also helps get you going. If you want some electrolytes, you can put some pink sea salt. I use a electrolyte supplement that I just use electrolytes, and I put my creatine in that. And that really does help keep our muscle mass, because it really is our longevity to keep us out of my nursing homes. It really does come down to muscle. You think about a good percentage of population that gets admitted in your older years is caused by falling. And falling is caused by shuffling. Falling is caused by having no glute muscles. Also balance. So if you are doing cardiovascular, if you're walking, you're moving, you're doing yoga, you're lifting weights, all of that, one, is not only working cognitively, because it really is, because you have to think about all this, but it's also working on your core stability and your balance. One of the biggest falls in my nursing homes is people falling out of their wheelchair, is because they slide right out of the wheelchair. It's because they have no muscle tone in their core, no abdominals, no glutes, nothing. And so if we can keep our skeletal system strong, that is a huge aging backwards kind of like life hack.
All right. So finding time to cook these healthy meals can be challenging. And do you have any meal prep ideas for us to make that a little bit easier?
One, meal plan, because that's the big thing. Don't just think about prep, because if you prep and you have no plan, you know what's going to happen. You open up the fridge, you have all this prep, and you're like, well, what am I going to make with all of this?
I have all this chopped up onion.
No, right? I have all this chopped up. I'm not going to know what I'm making. And here's the other thing. It has to taste good. It has to be something that you want to eat, because if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. And that's one thing I'm always working with my clients, is to make it doable for you and also make it easy. Is it going to take more time to do some quick cooking, some chopping up? Yeah, but it's still quicker than hopping in your car or even calling DoorDash and having them come get something. So what I would say first is sit down. Okay, what kind of foods do I like? Real foods, not takeout, real food. What real food? Guess what you can have? You can have chili. Got an Instant Pot. Instant Pots are amazing for making all sorts of things. I like grilled chicken breasts. Okay, let's make some grilled chicken breasts. What can I have with that? Well, let's have some carbs. Well, how about a potato or a sweet potato or rice? What about a side salad, not with fat-free dressing, not with low-fat dressing? How about we have some real dressing on there? And think about your fruits and your vegetables. Right now it's winter. Is frozen vegetables that you pop in the microwave fine? Yeah, it is, because you're not going to find broccoli anywhere. I'm getting it from Costco or Sam's in a quick 5 minutes in the microwave. The easier you can make it for yourself, the better. And that's what I always say is keep it easy. There are meal prep services that if you want to hire somebody else to do it for you, they can do it. There are places where you can just order protein that's already pre-done for you. If you love to cook, then cook, and you can, if you want to make some chicken beforehand, or even if you go get a rotisserie chicken. That's one of my favorite things. You can go get a rotisserie chicken. The Kroger here has rotisserie chicken. They have rotisserie turkey. You can get all those. And if you want, you can even make your own bone broth after that, put in your Instant Pot and make your own bone broth. And the easier you can make it, the better. So always having frozen vegetables on hand, always having fruit on hand. And then the only thing you have to think about is your protein. Don't be afraid of spices. Don't be afraid of trying a new recipe. There are so many good sites out there now with easy recipes I think most people think, well, if I'm cooking, I have to have 20 ingredients. Oh no, if it has more than 5 ingredients, I'm done. I'm not doing it. There's like 5 ingredients, and my chili has 5 ingredients. Done. Gone.
That's awesome.
I tried one of those meals where they send you all the ingredients and the recipe. Yeah. I'll tell you what, there were so many ingredients. And my kitchen looked like I had just cooked a Thanksgiving dinner when I finished, because I used every pot and pan and bowl in my kitchen to make this.
It's supposed to be easier.
I know. It's going to take me an hour just to clean up. We haven't talked about this, but fasting, people who do intermittent fasting, is that something you are okay with, or do we need to be eating all day?
No, I actually coach intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is actually 12 hours of not eating. And we forget that because we're so used to thinking that fasting is, oh my gosh, someone's doing a 24 or 48 hour, 72-hour fast. I can't do that. You don't have to do that. And as females, that stresses our body out a lot. But doing a 12-hour fast, giving our body digestive rest, will increase our insulin sensitivity. It will decrease our insulin resistance, and it will cause something called autophagy, which is cell turnover. Those are great things. If you think about it, when we had the grazing phase where you're supposed to eat just a little bit here and there. Well, what happens when you graze is that you are constantly releasing insulin, constantly keeping that blood sugar high. you're never allowing it to come down. Think about it. You get up at 5 a.m. and maybe you have a little bit of coffee with your creamer. And maybe you're having a muffin or a croissant. You go out the door, and depending on if you're working from home or if you're going out, and then if you're working from home, maybe you go past the kitchen and you get something, or if you're working out, then you go past someone's desk and they have a whole thing of candy. Like, oh, I'll just have the green M&Ms. I'll just eat those. And then it's something else. And then lunch comes. You're like, oh, wait, I ate way too much, so I'm just going to skip lunch. But then it's 2:00 and now you're starving, and you pick up some kind of processed protein bar or energy bar plus a Red Bull because you're crashing. And then it's 4 or 5 o'clock. You have a snack before dinner. You have dinner. Oh, your favorite TV show is on, or you start Netflix binging and you want some ice cream. Now it's 9, 10 o'clock. You're going to bed, and all you gave yourself was maybe 5 or 6 hours of digestive rest. No wonder you don't feel good, and you're more than likely what's considered a sugar burner and not a fat burner, because all you're doing is giving your body pretty much simple carbohydrates the whole entire time. So we're going insulin, 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 and you're constantly causing those blood sugar spikes. When you fast, you're giving your body that time to kind of just, all right, let me regenerate, let me bring everything down, and let me go ahead and increase my insulin sensitivity. Now you pair that with good nutrition, because I always say intermittent fasting is a tool. It's not a diet, because you still need a certain amount of protein, fats, and carbohydrates during the day. Just always remember that intermittent fasting is a tool. It's not a diet. So if you're just thinking that you can eat whatever you want in that window, and that's okay, that's not the case. It's all about what quality that we put inside that makes the difference. Intermittent fasting is a tool that helps. And yes, will it help decrease inflammation? Will it help all those things? Absolutely. But it always comes down to the quality of food that you're putting in and making sure you're getting enough of it too.
Okay. And is the window of a 16 or 18 hour fast okay? Or
16-8. So I always say either 12-12, 14-10, or 16-8. The
Okay.
OMAD, which is one meal a day, you'll hear a lot of that. No, because we can't get all the stuff that we need in
Right.
one meal.
It's tough to eat that much protein. Right.
No, and
I don't think you can digest it. Right.
No, we don't want to we don't want to set ourselves up for a binge. When we don't eat enough is when we crave sugar. When we don't eat enough is when we set ourselves up for a binge. When you start fueling your body, it's amazing that you don't crave sugar anymore. It's crazy.
Wow, this has been great, Amy. I really appreciate you spending the time and going through all of this with us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If our listeners want to follow you, where should they look?
I'll give them a couple places. I would love to give them something called the 5-day blueprint, and it's a fat loss blueprint. It's a lot of recipes. It's 4 or 5 days, but honestly, what I tell people to keep it simple, take those recipes and make them 2, 3, 4 times, triple it, quadruple it. So that way it's something that's easy. Along with that blueprint, I'm going to give you 2 of my favorite recipes. I mentioned my chili recipe a couple times, and I won't say it's my chili recipe. It is from the 1973 Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. And the rumor is what Dave Thomas took to make his chili for Wendy's. And it tastes just like it. It's 5 ingredients. I've adapted to an Instant Pot because who has time? And I love dump and go. So it is so good. It's so good for you. And it's freaking cold out right now, so it's perfect. But if you go to either the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist on Instagram, it's the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist on Instagram, and send me a message, Ellie, I will send you that 5-day blueprint along with those 2 extra recipes, including my chili. Or you can go to my website, which is amykwilson.com, amykwilson.com, and send me a message there. So either Instagram, the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist, or my website, amykwilson.com, and send me a message with Ellie, and I will be sure to send you those recipes. And
excellent. 5-day blueprint and 2 extra recipes.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And I usually only give those to my my clients, but for you guys, absolutely.
Thank you so much. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we include the link in our show notes so they can go right to your Instagram and ask, or your website.
Awesome.
That was great. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Amy was really helpful, I thought. I had lots of good ideas from talking with her.
Yes, I really liked many of the things that she said. I thought that was clever how she said you can tell a simple carb right away. Just pour a little water on it, and if it dissolves, you know that's what it's going to do in your stomach too. There's no fiber in there to stop it from a glucose spike.
You know, when she said that, I actually thought about putting my saltine crackers in soup and how people do that, and then they immediately dissolve.
Right. Right. Isn't that true? I mean, there's something about, and they taste like sugar too. The saltines are.
That whole thing was interesting about letting something dissolve in your mouth and then you'll taste the sugar.
So true.
I also thought the point about eating the protein and fiber, if you're going to eat the simple sugar, eat protein and fiber with it, and it will reduce the glucose spike.
Yeah. And she made a lot of great points about reducing the amount of sugar that you eat. She talked about changing your telomeres by not having those spikes, and reversing chronic inflammation, curing the brain fog. I mean, all these things, that not being hungry all the time. I mean, eating sugar does make you want to eat more sugar. It just does.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Also, I thought her whole thought on intermittent fasting was interesting. She was for it, but not really the extremes that I know some people do, which
Right.
sort of answered my concern always, which is getting in all the protein and nutrients you're trying to get in a day.
Right. And the fact that she's a pharmacist and said, or she has a degree in the pharmacy, a lot of times the medications are a treatment, but they're not a cure, and they've got side effects, that doing the changes you need to do in your life, although sometimes it's difficult, is much better than trying to treat the problem after it's happened.
Yes. And it was a good point about the weight loss drugs, that just because you think it will never happen to you, that there are side effects that could. That was a shocking part of the conversation, I thought.
Yeah, my jar was kind of hitting the table about the Ozempic. I didn't really know a lot about Ozempic. I've heard about it, but none of those side effects, my goodness.
Yeah. So I just want to remind you, if you're listening, that if you go to her website or Instagram account and request the 5-day blueprint and use the name Ellie, you'll get some additional recipes like that chili recipe, which I think is definitely worth checking out. The website is amykwilson.com, and her Instagram account, and I think also her Facebook page, is The Nutrition Coach Pharmacist.
Yes. And we will have links in the show notes in case it's easier for you to go to our website and just click on a link. I love the fact that she talked about just 5 ingredients, just throw them in the Instant Pot. That's my kind of cooking.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like to measure. I don't like to fuss. And, I like to get it going and go on to something else.
Yes, which is why the Instapot is such and like a crock pot, anything where you can just throw it in a thing and then go away and do something else.
Yeah. And she validated my frozen vegetables, because I'm just buying so many frozen vegetables these days. She says, that's fine. Just throw them in the microwave. So
yeah.
And
well,
I have to say, take them out of the package and put them in something that's not plastic, because more and more of these packaged food companies want you to cook inside the plastic, but you know what plastic is made of. I mean, I know what plastic, it has gasoline in it.
Right. And we're always trying, I tried to replace all my plastic storage containers with glass. So yes, you're right.
It's tempting to just pop in something like that, but it's like, take a minute, take it out of that and put it into something that's not going to leach in your microwave.
Absolutely. That's good advice. I always learn something new with each episode. And if you're listening, I am curious to know what you took away from this episode.
You can always leave us a message at becomingellie.com, or you can find us in our social media as Becoming Ellie, either on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you don't already belong, be sure to join our private Facebook group, Becoming Ellie.
Well, it was great talking with you today, Jill. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.